Hey, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to continue with the disassembly on the 1989 Kawasaki ZX7. Stay tuned. So as I get into this next phase of the video, I think kind of important to reiterate that as I attempt to tackle disassembly here, I've been soaking most of the fasteners that I have easy access to for weeks and weeks and weeks. We're hitting them with different different penetrating oils, mainly PB Blaster because I find it's exceptionally good, but everything from WD-40 to PB Blaster, Seafoam Deep Creep, all kinds of whatever I've got on hand I'll throw at it. And I just find that, while it's not a guarantee that everything's going to come off easily, when you've been doing that on and off for several weeks, you do it every few days kind of thing and just let things soak, the chances of things coming off without snapping or without rounding heads off or whatever else seems to be markedly improved in my experience. Now, the other thing that I tend to do, this is just me, this is just what I find, is that I try, for the most part, when I first break any of these fasteners free, I don't use a ratchet, and I don't use an impact gun. I don't use any electric tools at all. But what I do tend to use is a 2-foot breaker bar, Johnson bar, whatever you want to call it, one of these guys, because I find that if I can haul that real quick, it'll get a good impact and a good snap to break the bolts free. I find so far, I mean, it's not foolproof, don't get me wrong, but there seems to be less opportunity for heads to get rounded out, especially these Allen heads on some of these fasteners, like this sort of stuff. If I put a regular ratchet in there and I start reefing on it, without a quick snap, they tend to want to just kind of round out if they're really stuck in there. So my experience so far, and again, this is not full, I've rounded stuff out and buggered stuff up like everybody, but yeah, that's just kind of what I do. And I don't use electric screw guns at all, taking a bike apart or putting it back together. I mean, I think taking it apart, there's probably less chance of screwing something up, but I don't know, old school, I guess. I just do it by hand, and I just like feeling things coming out. I don't like the electric tools. It seems to be harder to get a feel for whether stuff's actually gonna snap off on you, whereas if you've got a ratchet or a wrench in your hand, you can really feel what's happening. But again, personal preferences, each to their own. All right, so things that kind of make you go, I don't understand. So somebody on this bike in the past has gone crazy with this wire covering. It's everywhere. It's on the fairing stay. It's absolutely everywhere. It's zip tied all over the place. I gotta get that off. It's on the rear brake lines. What for? Why? Not necessary. Yeah, I mean, this stuff was like everywhere. Places it didn't need to be. It's just things you find. So I've got the wiring harness removed from the stay. The one funky thing I found is this wire, which is basically going nowhere. It's been long since been cut. But what I think that is it's kind of a common ground wire. I think it might be this one. Black and yellow, coolant sensor, coolant temperature sensor, body ground. There's another frame body ground here. It's also black and yellow. And all these black and yellows seem to be going to ground. So I might need to resolve that one as well. Okay, front fairing stay is off. Again, nothing unusual. the normal things you find on an old bike, you know, cut wires and a million zip ties and that kind of stuff. So I think I'll probably, I don't know, I'm just kind of jumping back and forth as things occur to me. There's no huge rhyme or reason to, you know, I tackle the front first and then I tackle the back. To be honest, I'll kind of jump back and forth. The overall principle is I want to work my way back to an engine sitting on a stand. So the basic approach is kind of strip off the front, strip off the back, you know, remove the wheels, remove the forks, remove the swing arm, remove the subframe, and just kind of basically strip it back so that all I'm left with is the frame and the engine. And then I'll take the front frame off, I'll take the you know, the top frame off, and just be left with an engine sitting on a stand there, or a jack or what have you. So that's basically the whole way to break it down, and the reverse is true when to reassemble. So the engine will be sitting on a stand or a jack, and then everything will get bolted on to the engine. So the frame will go on, and then everything kind of gets bolted back to the frame. It's just a reverse process. So, all right, so here's the atrocities at the back here. So this is turn signal wire been cut off here. This turn signal wire has been cut off. This, I'm guessing, is the license plate light plug-in cut off. Yeah, not great, but yeah, all repairable, I guess. Found this on the table. This is the lower drive section of the speedo cable, and the spring there has broken off, so better add that to the list. Need a speedo cable now. Nothing on TV tonight, so I'm actually out here in my pajamas. This is what was substituting for a rear fender, piece of rubber mat. So I'll check the wiring diagram, but I'm pretty sure that this wire is supposed to go in that cradle. So this has been monkeyed with at some point, and yeah, I think that's supposed to mount there. With these rubber tabs go on these things here. So yeah, that'll have to get sorted out because it's routed incorrectly, I think. I was correct. There's the wire right there. So yeah, that's why having these original factory shop manuals is such a handy thing, because you just don't know. You could put everything back where you got it from, but sometimes you just look at it and you know that it's not right because somebody's been in there before and they haven't put it back together properly. So what I'm told by Chris out of the UK, so Chris is the gentleman who sold me the hugger and the rear fender for this. So thanks again for that, Chris. And then he watched the last video where I was complaining about the fact that, you know, why would anybody put an exhaust system on where you can't get at the drain plug, because the drain plug was basically covered up by the collector here on the 4-into-1. And so Chris tells me that there's a difference. One of the several differences between the 89 H1 and the 1990 H2 is they have a different oil pan. And on the H1, this one, the drain plug is basically kind of bang in the center pretty much. And so that is not off an H1, that's off an H2, because the H1 had a 4-into-2-into-1, which allowed for access to the drain plug between the two sets of double pipes. So when it goes from 4 into 2, you can access the drain plug between the two. If you put an H2 set of pipes on it like this, a 4 into 1, it's going to immediately interfere with the drain plug. And so then when he mentioned that to me in the email, I thought, well, geez, I'm almost certain that my next project H2 has a 4 into 2 into 1 on it. I wonder if I have a problem there with the drain plug access on that one. And maybe this whole problem with both bikes could be solved by just switching the pipes from that to that and then putting those pipes on that. So let's take a look. All right, so I'm crawling underneath the 1990 ZX7 H2, and what I'm looking at here is the pipes that are on this. I'm trying to figure out whether or not these are stock pipes or whether these are aftermarket pipes. Because, and the pipes that are correct for the H1 are 4 into 2 into 1, which is what these appear to be, versus a 4 into 1, which is what is apparently supposed to be on this one. So yeah, maybe I can just switch pipes. So here we go. Here is the drain plug right there. This is on the H2, and same problem, right? This is offset, I think, a little bit, and then the pipe is in the way. So I might be in a situation here where I can just switch pipes from one bike to the other and eliminate the problem completely on both bikes. That would be good. All right, I'm just at the paint shop buying paint for the Kawi, and this is the old paint that I basically brought to get color matched. I went back to the Chromax Mosaic for this just because I had these colors from the previous job, and I know they were bang on. So I came back here to get this paint. This is the new stuff, and look at that. $535.62. That's for a liter. Sorry, that's for a quart of silver for the frame, a quart of green, half a pint of blue, and 1 pint of white. That's friggin' obscene, absolutely obscene. It would have been probably $250 for the Valspar. So this is the, well, aside from the fact they're not carrying the Chromax for too much longer, I just reminded myself why I don't buy it anymore. Good Lord. Yeah, so I guess the other thing I'll say while I'm ranting about this is this is including a $200 discount because I'm getting the body shop rate. So that would have been like, $700 and some odd dollars if I didn't get the discount. It doesn't include the pearl, because my buddy's got a can of pearl that I'm going to use. It doesn't include the clear coat, which is another $100 per sprayable quart for that stuff. So this, yeah, no more Chromax. We're going to be I'm quite happy to deal with the quirks of Valspar paint at that kind of price difference. Let me tell you, holy smokes, absolute madness on cost. I'm not sure what you guys are paying out there for automotive paints these days, but I don't understand why one brand of paint is double the price of another. It makes no sense to me at all. All right, so here's the new old stock fairing support that came from Sweden off eBay. It was a pretty good deal, actually. It was one of the more reasonable purchases that I've made. Nice to have a nice new one. Got a new chain. And I think one of the things I might do is I may do a little bit of a rundown just on all the stuff I've purchased for this bike already. It's quite extensive, so I normally don't talk about costs, to be honest. But maybe I'll just touch on kind of just some of the bigger ticket items. I'll do a full rundown, but at this point in the game, I'm well over $3,500 in parts for replacement and repair and whatnot on this thing. So yeah, there's a lot of parts that were missing or you know, in need of being replaced on this thing. So yeah, I'll do a rundown on that at some point shortly. So I'll touch on this briefly in case it's of value to anybody, just to have color codes. I'm not sure if you can cross-reference these depending on if you have access to Chromax Mosaic Paint or not, but here they are. So this is the dark blue. That's the color code right there, the CAS640B5. This was done from a color scan off the original panel on my 1990. So that's that color code. The white, I mean, you can probably paint pretty much any white you want. This is a tri-coat that I use for the ZX7 because it's a pearl. So the base coat is a Mazda Crystal White. There's the 973037B4, 2009 Mazda Crystal White. And then on top of this base coat is a mid coat of pearl that goes with it. And the green, that's the color. There it is, there's the color code. And it happens to match with a Chrysler color, Green Angel's Road Assist. So yeah, that's it. And then I guess the other thing I will mention is this the color? No, this is the one here. This is the silver for the frame, if I can get it out. So this was taken from a color scan on the frame of my 1990 that I did a year ago. So it's a Lexus color code. I don't know what year that is, but anyway, there's the paint coat on it. And yeah, the frames on these bikes are not they're not polished. They're not like a brushed finish on the frame and anodized or anything like that. They are painted, so that's the correct color. However, that's not the correct finish. I just didn't have access to a flat clear coat when I did this bike. It looks great, but it's supposed to be a matte finish on the frame. And so I do now have flat clear coats of this bike, and the other one over here that I'm going to do next will have a flat finish on the frame. So it'll be silver, but not glossy. So that'll be much more correct. So here's the petcock valve for the ZX7. I'm interested to know from anybody that's got an 89 whether or not this is the original petcock. I've seen pictures of bikes online with this kind of chrome bezel and the kind of just the metal lever on them. And then I've also seen bikes that have the same sort of petcock as the 1990, which is kind of the more, I'll say, more traditional one with the black plastic lever knob on it. But I have seen other bikes with this on, but it's not clear to me whether this is kind of OEM, original petcock, or whether this is an old style aftermarket item for the bike. So if you know, stick a comment below and let me know your thoughts on that. Thanks. I'm pretty certain this fuel pump is going to be snafu'd, but we'll see. We'll kind of try to give it a bit of a test here and see what happens. Connect this to the battery. Oh, look at that, it actually does work. Oh, wonders never cease. There's one item I don't have to buy. It just needs to be completely fleshed out and cleaned. Nice. So yes, just so you know, that was not fuel coming out of there. It was water. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, but it does work. Obviously, a new fuel filter is going to be required because well, that's just gone, long gone. The fuel line between these two, it looks like it's got a crack forming in it. So yeah, definitely need new filter, new hoses, and then we'll flush that thing out, and then hopefully it'll be good. So slowly getting everything stripped off here, and you know, as you would expect, you still find more stuff that's broken. This is the choke cable. That's completely euchred, so I'll need a new one of those as well. All right, so here's another example of the butchery that goes on, and this always puzzles me. So here's the bolt that I removed that attaches this rear subframe to the main frame. So that's not the correct bolt. It should be like a cap head Allen bolt that goes in there. This one is obviously not a cap head Allen bolt, and it's too long. It should be about 25 millimeters, and this is far in excess of that. So far in excess that it has rubbed on the chain. It was a bit of a bugger to get it out, of course, because the threads were all galled up on the end. But I don't understand why that happens. Why does somebody put this in when they would have had to have taken this out at some point? Why wouldn't they put the original one back in? Maybe they buggered them up, but oh man, like it's just, I don't understand. Yeah, I'm not sure which relay this is. I'll have to look it up, but it was zip tied to the side of the battery box here. But this looks like it's done more miles than the bike on the road. Look at the state of that. Whatever that is, it can't be functional in that kind of condition. Look, it's all worn through. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Flasher unit, a relay for something. Starter relay. Well, let's look it up and find out what that is. It's in bad shape either way. It's got a power. This is where this right here. You see where the wire's all boogered there? That's one of those T-tap connectors that was on there for the Oxford heated grips. Okay, I just looked it up in the book. It appears that could be the fuel pump relay. Okay, so here's a closer look at the what's supposed to be a connector block from the ignition switch. I mean, most of these were labeled, which is a good thing, I guess. The ones that weren't, I labeled them because this is going to have a new connector block, kind of male and female on each end of this. This is the other end of that rat's nest. And yeah, I mean, golly, it's in difficult shape here. This one has been extended, this orange with the green tracer. Yeah, it's just a dog's breakfast. But yeah, I'm gonna have to put I'm gonna have to buy a 6-pin connector block for these, and Like this one here is the only one that doesn't go into that connector block. It stays separate. But yeah, this is all gonna have to get fixed. The challenge obviously becomes when you cut all these off, these wires get a little shorter than is ideal. I don't have to have too many, soldered connections in here, because I think that can create other issues as well. So I'm just gonna have to be fairly surgical when I go through this process of fixing this stuff. And Bubba has been in here before, obviously, and there's always something on every bike seems to have its own sort of theme of with atrocities that you come across. This one, you know, has a couple of themes. The one is the wiring is just a dog's breakfast. Somebody has just monkeyed with the wiring to some huge extents. And the other is the fasteners. Like somebody's taken this bike apart before, maybe when they polished the frame, I don't know, but I still don't think I've taken out too many OEM fasteners. The ones in the foot pegs and the heel shin guards and whatnot are OEM for sure, but there's a lot of fasteners on here that are not original. So you kind of hear me whining and complaining about you know, the wiring and, you know, all these kinds of things, but, you know, truth is, it's just kind of par for the course, right? These are the things that you're going to find when you're monkeying around with an old bike. It's just the way it is, and you kind of just deal with it and move on. You know, I will say that, you know, you can take these restorations to varying degrees, and depending on how much time and money you want to throw at it, you can go completely overboard, and you end up putting in way more money than the bike's ever worth. And there are people out there who do far better work than me. As I've said before, I just kind of fumble my way through this stuff. Hoping to do what I'll say is a good job. You know, I strive for some sort of you know, good result. You know, excellence would be great. But the one thing I always kind of keep in mind, though, is that you've probably heard the saying that you know, perfection is not affordable, excellence will do. And that's kind of the approach that I try to take. You know, perfection is the enemy of good, and you can, as I said before, you can go to some huge lengths to get these motorcycles looking back to pretty much as new if you're willing to spend the time and the money doing it. And I'm not. I'll spend, you know, what I think is still a fair amount of money to put this bike back to pretty close to original specification, but I'm not that guy that's going to drop you know, $10, $15, $20,000 to restore a bike that'll be worth, you know, a fraction of that at the end of the day. But so just kind of keep that in mind for your own project. You know, keep your budget in mind. Have some idea of what you think the bike's going to be worth when it's all said and done, and you know, go from there. You could put, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in these things and never get that money back. And at the same time, the other side of the coin is, you know, you also don't want to create, you know, another dog's breakfast. You know, you're not turning one mess into another mess. So do the best you can, have fun, but go in with your eyes open, knowing that these things do cost a fair whack of money to move along the restoration chain. So since it's fall in the shop, well, it's fall everywhere, but in the shop, there seems to be the fact that I've got a hornet's nest somewhere, and these guys are all kind of dopey and slow, and it's just kind of what happens as we get into the colder fall season. And every day, I think they think the security camera that I have here is a hive, just from the shape of it. And so they all kind of congregate, all these rogue wasps. You can get 3, 4, 5 of them huddled on here at a time, but they're pretty dopey. So I just kind of take this towel and I just kind of grab them and dispose of them, because I don't like these guys flying around everywhere. So into the garbage he goes, along with about 20 of his friends. Okay, so I found a tool that I don't have. So these have been boogered up pretty bad by somebody in the past. You can see those are male Torx that somebody has butchered. And so what I need to do is to find a female torque socket. See if I can get it on there and get these out. It's not going to be easy. Like somebody has, instead of using the right tool, they've hammered something else on there and made a complete pig's ear of it. Unbelievable. On the upside, I get to buy some tools. Okay, so I just went online and I ordered the socket set to deal with that. And if for any reason I can't get it off, well, it's just going to stay on there while I deal with the upper triple clamp and whatever work I have to do. So that's just the way it'll be, but we'll give it a go. And I also ordered a new one of these guys, a new relay for the fuel pump. It was only $22 Canadian, not too bad. So yeah, we'll pick away at this. We'll get there. It's gonna take a while. So yeah, it's starting to look like a stripped bike. I think the next is I'm gonna take the coils off, get all that out of the way. And then, then maybe I'll try to take the drive sprocket off. Coil mount bolts. So as I've showed you before, everything gets labeled and put into a Ziploc bag. Number on the bag corresponds with the step in my book, and it just helps avoid getting, I mean, there's step 81 written in there about removing the coils and where the wires go, and then right over here is a never-ending set of bags with all the part numbers on there. And I always write, I don't just put the number on the bag, I always write, you know, coil mount bolts. So if for any reason my notes get damaged, which occasionally can happen when you spill something on it, at least that way I know what those bolts are for. Now I'm going to see if I can wiggle the clutch line out of here. All right, we'll see if we can get the drive sprocket off. I've got the washer has been bent back. I've got a piece of wood locking the rear wheel. And I know I said I don't often use impact tools, but this is one of those times where you can make your life easier, for sure. Apparently this is not one of those times. Turn up the air pressure a little bit, just as high as my compressor will go. All right, time for the breaker bar. See what I can do with this. Holy, it's not budging. So you can see where the wheel is actually cutting into the wood. That's how hard this thing is to get off. I mean, I know they've got to be on there with a certain torque, but I can tell you for sure that's way beyond where it should be. So either that thing is grossly over torqued or this book is wrong for that. So T2, which is that sprocket nut, 98 Newton meters, which is 7.2 foot-pounds. And I've got a 2-foot Johnson bar on there. And all right, so I've used all the tricks that I know of. Obviously the back wheel is locked. I've used an impact gun. I've used the Johnson bar here. I've been hitting the socket when it's been on the nut with the pressure on the bar, trying to get this thing to break, and it will not break. So I think my only choice now is to cut that nut off, which, you know, again, I'd rather not have to do that because it's a huge pain in the backside, but I'm kind of out of ideas. I know the trick about take the back wheel off and put a screwdriver through the chain and all that kind of thing, but all that's doing is the same as this. So yeah, and again, I've I've put a lot of pressure on that Johnson bar to the point where I've now hurt my back quite severely. So if you're going to do that, make sure you're not like me who's got a bad back. And yeah, I've really tweaked my back pretty good trying to pull up on that bar, trying to snap that nut off there. All right, so what I've done so far here is I was cutting it across. That didn't work, so I basically taken one of these high spots, knocked it completely off this side, knocked it completely off this side, and I'm trying to get close enough to crack the nut off, but so far it's not budging. It's not budging with the Johnson bar, and it's not budging with the impact gun yet. It's unbelievable. Finally got it. Holy smokes. I think I got it. Yep. She's going now. That's madness. So, yeah, so just, it's off now. It's coming loose, but like, there's no need to torque these things to such ridiculous specifications. Like, it's coming off now, but like, follow the factory shop manual instructions and torque it to specification. You don't need Loctite. You just use the locking tab washer, and like, it's not rocket science, folks. You shouldn't have to resort to this kind of thing to get these off. You really shouldn't. All right, so loosened off the back wheel. Took the chain off, so I'll see if I can lift off the front sprocket. It seems to be pretty snug on there. Surprise, surprise, it's not budging. I put penetrating oil in this already, but yeah, it's not. It doesn't want to move either. I'd like to find the person who put that stuff on there, and yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. Too tight, and then, you know, a little bit of copper grease, you know, doesn't go amiss on these things. It's cheap, why wouldn't you? All right, so I said I'd give you a quick run through of what I've squandered my money on for this current restoration. So ballpark on parts at this point is about $3,500 on parts and whatnot. So here's the rundown of what I've spent it on so far. So paint, decals, throttle tube, throttle cables, drive chain, the infill panels that go on top of the cowl of the side fairings there, fork seals, wheel bearings, steering bearings, left and right switch gear, front and rear chain guards, tires, brakes front and rear, exhaust gaskets, speedo cable, oil filter, fuel filter, front and rear turn signals, a rear fender, a rear hugger, left and right handlebars. What else have we got? Yeah, bolts. The missing bolts, or the wrong bolts, were in the frame. I've got new ones of those coming. Choke cable, 2 new tires, fuel pump relay, and then so that's basically what I've spent money on so far. So that's added up to about 3,500 Canadian. And then still to buy a sprocket nut, which I just took off because I had to cut it off. I also still have to buy potentially front and rear sprockets, spit it out, sprockets, once I check out the condition of the existing ones. Caliper kit. I have not bought front or rear caliper kits yet, so very likely I'm going to need that. And also some 6-pin connector blocks for that wiring harness where that was butchered up really good. So I'll have to do that as well. So yeah, that's about it. So yeah, my guess is I'm going to be into all of this for in and around $4,000 just in parts. So that doesn't cover you know, what I paid for the bike in the first place. So minimum $4,000 to actually buy all the parts and paint and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it adds up quick. that's the cost of it. You do this kind of stuff, it's not cheap. And I guess you can make the argument that, you know, you spend more money on a better bike, you don't have to spend as much money on the parts, which in some cases might be true. Well, guess we'll find that out when I actually get around to restoring the green one, which is in better shape. But there's kind of a minimum, right? If you go through the whole process of doing paint and decals and tires and brakes, and you replace all the consumables and all of that kind of stuff, you know, you're still not going to get much change out of, you know, $3,000. So I think there's kind of a minimum cost to restore a motorcycle. So it seems to me that, you know, that's basically what you're going to end up spending no matter what, in order to do paint and get something looking good again. But, you know, there's also arguments to be made that you could probably go out and buy a fully restored bike for, you know, depending on what kind of bike it is, for close to what you're going to have into it when all's said and done. So you got to enjoy the process, I guess. That's the key thing. If you don't enjoy swinging a wrench and painting and all of that kind of stuff, then it's probably not worthwhile doing it. Similarly, if you have to job everything out, if you can't do your own paint, if you can't apply your own decals, if you can't recover your own seat, if you have somebody else change your tires like I usually do, that all adds to the cost, right? So in order to keep the cost down, you need to be able to do as much of this stuff yourself as possible. And yeah, I do most of it myself. There's a few little things that I don't, but by and large, I try to do as much of it as I can. Helps keep the cost down. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that's going to wrap it up for this video because my back is completely screwed up from wrestling with that sprocket nut. So we're going to rest up for a few days, and then we'll get back at it and try to get the rest of this bike taken apart. Thanks for watching. Bye.